Welcome to Veteran Resource Podcast, where you will meet nonprofit organizations focused on improving the lives of veterans and their family members. Here is your host, Jeremy Paris.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 31 of the Veteran Resource Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Paris, and today we have Jessica Rodgers and Samantha Eddy, who will be talking about the Veterans Yoga Project, and more specifically, the National Yoga for Veterans Day event that's coming up here in Baltimore. The event is going to be on November 8th at 10 o'clock, and you're going to hear all about it in this interview, so I won't talk too much about it here in the intro, but I will say after the episode is done, make sure you get over to the show notes page at veteranpodcast.com/031 so that you can register for the event, get all of the information that you need. The National Yoga for Veterans Day is a nationwide event and aims to raise awareness about the benefits yoga has for veterans living with post-traumatic stress disorder. This will be a fundraising event for Veterans Yoga Project. At the event, they will offer 3 yoga classes, 2 45-minute sessions for adults, and a 30-minute session for children ages 5 and up, and all levels of ability are able to attend. Complete beginners and yoga gurus will feel welcome. They're also going to have food, they're going to have a raffle, information booths featuring charities that help wounded warriors such as Catch a Lift and Music for Vets, which you heard in episode 23 with Deidre. I'm sure you remember that one. And this event is just going to be a whole lot of fun. Let's go ahead and jump right into the interview. Samantha, Jessica, welcome to the Veteran Resource Podcast. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. Thanks
Wonderful.
for having us.
Excellent. So I wanted to start out by getting a brief description of the Veterans Yoga Project.
Sure. So Veterans Yoga Project grew out of an initial effort in 2011 by a VA clinical psychologist named Dr. Daniel Libby and a yoga teacher to raise awareness and encourage the support for veterans who struggle with PTSD. And the project began to grow some interest in the community, and over time, the organization was born, and it began to actually focus on training yoga teachers how to use yoga for patients with PTSD or other trauma-sensitive patients. And they became an official nonprofit in 2011. And ever since then, they've been dedicating their time to improving the health and well-being of military veterans, their families, and active duty as well.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. I didn't realize that it was around since 2011. Well, a nonprofit since 2011. Very cool.
Yeah, correct. It took them some time to get their 501c3, but now that they have that status where they're actively fundraising and hosting all sorts of events and retreats and other ways of helping veterans recover from PTSD.
Very nice. And I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about the organization. But first, I kind of wanted to get a little bit of background on both of you. So let's start with Sam.
Okay, well, I am a registered yoga teacher. I got my 200 hour this past June, actually in Costa Rica. But I've been practicing yoga for about 8 years now. And I currently teach here in Baltimore City at Sunlight and Yoga Studio. It's in Hamden. Really cool studio, real small, intimate studio. I'm also a student at Stevenson University. I'm about to graduate in December with my undergrad in psychology. Yeah, I want to go on from there to grad school. I want to study mindfulness and yoga with PTSD.
Very nice. And Jessica?
So I've been studying yoga and practicing yoga since I was 14 years old, about 10 years now. And I became a teacher when I was 19. In the same year, in 2010, I took my 200-hour teacher training with Charm City Yoga in Baltimore. And for a while, I was focused on teaching vinyasa yoga in a public setting, for-profit classes. But after I took Veterans Yoga Project's training for mindful resilience yoga therapy, I dedicated my efforts towards serving veterans at no cost, offering them mindful resilience yoga therapy in complement to their clinical treatment for PTSD. And I have been focused on that ever since. Now, I don't teach any public classes. I just do private lessons and events like the one that we're about to discuss. And outside of yoga, I work for the Maryland General Assembly, work in politics, and I'm about to go to law school and get my law degree.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. And do you guys have a military background? I mean, you guys are doing these great things for veterans. I was curious where the mindset came from.
Yeah, so my brother is a veteran. He enlisted in, 2007, I believe. And he served overseas in Afghanistan in 2009 and returned and had a diagnosis of PTSD. And because of that, because of him, it's totally changed my life in a million different ways. His story has altered my story. And has inspired me in a lot of ways to find alternate treatments for PTSD, which kind of brought me to yoga as well. So that's my experience with the veteran community is through my brother.
Nice.
And for me, I've grown up around the military as well. My granddad and my dad were in the military. My dad was not in the military after I was born, however, so it just was sort of the mindset and the lifestyle that was there, but not actually growing up around it. And I had actually always told myself I'd never, ever, ever marry anyone or date anyone in the military or get involved with the military when I was older, just because it's not about that life. But when I met my now husband in 2009, he was about to leave for boot camp and he joined the Marine Corps. And after serving in the Marine Corps, he also began to struggle with some severe anxiety disorders. And that led me to want to look into ways that I could help him with his anxiety. And naturally, yoga being my tool of healing, I wanted to use that for him. And after learning more about how yoga can help with anxiety, I decided to get more involved. And now here we are.
I see. And you mentioned PTSD. Can you kind of go over what some of those symptoms are?
Yeah, so according to the DSM, that big book that psychologists use to diagnose your disorder with a number, it's an ongoing maladaptive psychological response to a traumatic event. And PTSD is characterized by a difficulty in regulating one's sensory arousal. So the people suffering from PTSD will fluctuate between extreme hypervigilance, they're on edge, people move and they jump, or they're very low arousal, they feel tired all the time, they feel sluggish, and they have a really hard time just feeling positive emotions in general. And veterans are at a really high risk for PTSD due to a continual exposure to combat and other traumatic events that are non-combat related. So it's very important to note that PTSD doesn't just come from going to war, it can come from a lot of other things. And in general, people who have PTSD experience flashbacks, intrusive thoughts, insomnia, irritability. Again, that inability to experience positive emotions. They like to avoid social interaction and other stimuli that might remind them of the trauma. For example, a lot of veterans dislike 4th of July because fireworks remind them of the sound of exploding bombs. However, that list is definitely not comprehensive, and each person suffers from PTSD in their own way.
Mm. And so, why is yoga so good for veterans with PTSD?
Well, yoga, it helps primarily by teaching the practitioner how to regulate their own awareness and helping them to regain control over their thoughts. So Jessica had mentioned that with PTSD, there's a difficulty in regulating sensory arousal. And so yoga can help to regulate that through mindfulness, through pranayama or breathing exercises, and meditation as well as the poses of yoga. And so, yeah, it helps them identify and mitigate the negative reactions to the stimuli.
I see. Oh, wow. And I imagine that you guys have both experienced being around people who have PTSD and using yoga and seeing the benefits yourself in person.
Yeah, definitely. So I, as part of my training with Veterans Yoga Project, and I kind of an aside, I did a service project back in 2014. I did 1,700 hours of national community service, and part of that was teaching yoga to veterans at the Jacksonville, North Carolina VA Vet Center. And I had one student in particular, his PTSD was so bad that he did not leave his house except to go to therapy, and in turn to come to my yoga class, which was taught right after his therapy. And he would come there. He would feel so anxious. He'd tell me at the beginning, I feel like I can't relax. I can't sleep. I'm not happy. And then afterwards, at the end of class, he would say, I almost fell asleep just there and I haven't slept for 3 days. And, I'll come back to your class and I can make it outside now just by being with my breath. Whereas before I couldn't leave my house. And that was amazing to me. And another anecdote that you might be interested in was actually one of the reasons why Dr. Daniel Libby started Veterans Yoga Project. He had a particular patient who had insomnia so bad that he had like 5 or 6 different kinds of sleep medications. I don't remember what it was he told me, but he had a lot of sleep medication. And now, just through using mindful resilience and yoga therapy, he was able to get himself completely off of sleep medications. And now he teaches yoga and meditation to other students.
Oh, wow. That's pretty powerful.
It's true.
And so you guys have a big event coming up, the National Yoga for Veterans Day. Did I get that right?
Yes.
All right. National Yoga for Veterans Day.
Which is part of Veterans Gratitude Week.
Okay, great. And this sounds like a really big event.
Yes, we're hoping it's going to be a very big event. We're really excited about it. We were asked by one of the ambassadors from VYP to host one in Baltimore for the Gratitude Week. And of course, we said yes. And so we've been organizing this for a few months now, and it's going to be a big event. It's going to be held at Stevenson University on the Owings Mills campus. There's 2 campuses, so it's on the Owings Mills campus at Stevenson. And we're going to be having 3 yoga classes. And myself and Jessica will be teaching. Jessica will be teaching the kids one. There's going to be a kids one, as well as I'll be teaching a regular one, a 45-minute class. And then we have another teacher, Sarah J., who will be teaching a 45-minute class as well. And it's going to be really exciting. There's going to be some tables there. We have the support of Music for Vets, as well as Catch a Lift, which is a veterans organization that provides gym memberships to veterans.
Nice.
And so we have the support of them, and they're going to be there. We're going to have some information tables there with them, as well as we have a raffle, which we're really excited about. We have mala beads that have been donated from Chris Edder through Mala for Vets. And he's donated 5 of those that will be up for the raffle, as well as a class pass to Sunlight and Yoga studio in Hamden. And then there's also going to be a gift card from Baltimore Coffee and Tea Company, which will be really exciting. And we're asking people if they donate, they'll be entered into the raffle. So it's going to be a fundraising campaign for Veterans Yoga Project. And everyone's welcome. It's veterans, civilians alike. It's a lot of it is to raise awareness of the benefits of yoga for those with PTSD. So it's to raise awareness as well as to raise money for VYP too.
Okay. So it's not just an event for veterans. It's definitely not just an event for veterans with PTSD. This is an event for anybody.
Yep, it's open to everyone. It's open to the public. It's even so the veterans as well are going to be entered into the raffle. They don't have to donate anything to be entered. So we're kind of looking for civilians to come and donate as well, so that they'll be entered into the raffle. And I wanted to mention too, I forgot, we're going to have a food truck there as well with Brick and Fire Pizza Company. They're going to be there too.
So nice.
We'll have some food.
That's good.
And all levels of ability can attend.
Yes.
So if you're a complete beginner, you can come. If you're a yoga guru, you'll come. You'll have a good time.
Yep.
Kids can come. We're asking the kids be 5 to 10 years old, or in that age range, maybe 13. It will be most appropriate for that age range, their section of the yoga. But yeah, it's going to be a really, really good time. And we want everyone to come and bring as many people as you can. So even if you can't donate, you can at least learn something and how you can help your fellow veteran, because there are so many veterans in the Baltimore Metro, DC area, really are. And a lot of people don't know how many veterans they know.
That's true. I bump into veterans on a regular basis. And of course, I mean, I'm kind of looking for them myself. But everywhere I go, I seem to find, find veterans from all eras. I mean, World War II veterans, Vietnam veterans, Iraq, Afghanistan veterans. I run into all of them around this area.
Yeah.
And you never know how many of them are struggling with something that they may not even realize they're struggling with still. You know, we have a neighbor downstairs. Where I moved into my new apartment. He was a Vietnam vet. You know, a lot of Vietnam veterans were never diagnosed with PTSD. They came home and they've been struggling with PTSD for almost 40 years now. And so that's part of our goal in having this event is to get the word out there. Hey, did these symptoms sound like you? Yeah. If it does, there's things that can help you. And no, they don't have to be pills. And, you know, yoga isn't a cure-all. It's not going to work for everybody, but most people that do it experience some sort of benefit. And even if you just get one benefit out of the hundreds that yoga has to offer, that's one more thing that you have that you didn't have before.
And this is an event. I mean, obviously, you guys are running the one here in Baltimore, but this is an event that's going on all across the nation. Is that correct?
Correct. It's so, like we said, it's actually part of a week, Veterans Gratitude Week of events that are across the country. Everyone, all the participating studios and individuals like Sam and myself are doing this on different days throughout the week, but it's all for the same purpose, again, to raise awareness about PTSD and yoga and to raise funds for Veterans Yoga Projects so they can really advance their mission. As like I said, they're new. They started in 2011. They don't have tons and tons of funds already. So we need to get some funds into this program so we can really reach the maximum number of veterans. And there is a presence all across the country. They just need to be able to make it there.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things about the Gratitude Week is we're doing this rather large event, but what's cool about it is that anyone can do this. So any yoga teacher can just have a donation-based class, and even if she gets 5 students, you know, that can be, I don't know, however much that is, $30 to donate to VYP. And so it's something that anyone can jump in on. It's something anyone can support.
Oh, that's good to know. Good to know.
Yep.
And okay, so I've got to ask this question, and normally I'm asking all of the questions for the listeners, but in this case, I'm a little bit selfish, and this one is going to be for my own benefit. For somebody who always has had trouble touching their toes. I mean, I've done yoga throughout the years, off and on, but even when I was a kid, when everybody else in class was able to touch their toes, I was the guy going somewhere between my knees and my ankles. So for somebody like me, how can I get better at touching my toes?
Well, I was going to say one of the biggest components of yoga is breath, is pranayama. And so the touching the toes part, it's really not that big of a deal. Yoga isn't about doing the coolest pose. It's not about doing a handstand or even touching your toes. It's the breathing component, because the breathing component is what kind of brings us into this moment. It makes us mindful. And that's where the power of yoga comes from, is that breathing. And so as long as you're breathing when you're trying to touch your toes, that's that's okay, you know? And so one of the things I like to always say is that if you can breathe, you can do yoga. Yoga is for everyone. It doesn't matter if you can't touch your toes. It doesn't matter your weight. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter. Everyone can do it because everyone can breathe.
Right. And that's really touching on the core of it too. So even if you can touch your toes, yoga will help you get there. But another core component of yoga is practice. So when you really get into yoga, you're getting into the yoga practice. So it's not going to happen overnight, but you're going to breathe steadily and you're going to stretch and do the asana, the yoga poses. And over time, your muscle fibers will start to lengthen, your breath will start to lengthen, and eventually your spine will start to lengthen. And sooner or later, maybe you don't touch your toes, but you're a quarter of an inch closer. It all depends on your anatomy and physiology. But if you dedicate your practice towards that, you will achieve your goals.
Very cool. Yeah. So I obviously, like I said, I do it sporadically. So I'm sure that if I started doing it on a regular basis, I might be able to get a little bit closer. But I think you're absolutely right, too, that whenever I am really trying to touch my toes, I'm sure I'm holding my breath.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so funny when in balancing poses all the time when you're teaching, people are holding their breath because they think that's going to help them balance. And I'm like, guys, you're cutting off the oxygen to your brain. You're not going to be able to balance. You have to breathe. So it's totally part of it. And if you're holding your breath, your muscles are automatically locking themselves up because something's wrong. They're like, oh, I'm not breathing. Where's the oxygen? My muscles can't function without that oxygen, or I can't release that carbon dioxide toxin. My muscles aren't going to work. You're not going to loosen up and get any farther.
Yeah.
Wow, that makes sense. I need to get into a studio.
Or at home or with us. Sam actually records yoga videos, and she's going to help me record a few myself. So we'll have some things online, and you can just watch us from home.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've been one of these YouTube yogis for years now.
That's awesome, though. You gotta start somewhere. Hey.
And Veterans Yoga Project actually offers free online resources. That's part of the services that they offer. You can just go to veteransyogaproject.org and you'll find a whole library of meditation, breathing, and yoga nidra practices. And yoga nidra, by way of explanation, is a meditative practice that helps focus on sleep and relaxes the mind to a point where you can slip into a sleep-like meditative state. It's really, really fascinating practice, and you should definitely try that if you've never tried it before.
Oh, I'm definitely going to go and check that out. Yeah, and I'm going to make sure that I put all of the links for the event and for the website and everything into the show notes.
Great, thanks.
Make it nice and easy for people to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that this is in Baltimore. Specifically, where is it going to be?
So it'll be on Stevenson University campus, the Owings Mills campus. There are two campuses with Stevenson University, and sometimes people get confused. But it's on the Owings Mills campus, which is on Owings Mills Boulevard in Owings Mills.
It's a lot of Owings Mills.
Not go to the other campus, because that is what I did the first time. Not go to the one in Owings Mills. So don't go there, even if your GPS tells you to.
Yeah.
And it's in the gym, right?
Yeah, so it'll be in the gym. There's a stadium. There's the large Mustang Stadium when you pull into campus, and then there's a gym there. There'll be signs, of course, but it'll be in the gym on Stevenson campus. So
very cool.
Parking is free and open. Anyone can come, and even if they're not in the area, they can definitely go online and donate, even if they can't make the event.
Yes.
And for the people that this is their very first time doing yoga, obviously they could breathe, they could do yoga, right? But for their very first time, what do you recommend they wear? They're probably not going to have like all of the Lululemon or whatever that stuff is.
They can anything they're comfortable in, any athletic clothing. It doesn't have to be Lululemon. No way. You can wear anything to yoga, anything that you're comfortable in, anything you can run in or walk in. Is fine.
Yeah, basically just, something that breathes. You don't want to wear jeans, and you probably don't want to wear a skirt or something like that. But anything, like Sam said, that you feel comfortable in that moves, you can do yoga in.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And we would also recommend that they bring water. And if they don't have a yoga mat, it's not a big deal. But they may want to bring something to wipe their hands off with afterwards, because we will be touching the floor.
Good advice. All right. Do either of you have anything else before we get into the final 3 questions?
And so Samantha and I really wanted to stress that PTSD can lead to a whole host of other problems like homelessness, legal issues, unemployment, domestic violence, but most tragically, it can lead to suicide. And I'll let Sam talk about that a little bit more.
So actually there's a statistic that 22 veterans a day commit suicide, which is a mind-blowing statistic, terrifying statistic, really. And so that's a big part of what we're doing with this event, as well as raising awareness to reduce that number, because that is a huge number. There's also
an unacceptable number.
Yeah, definitely. There's also a social media challenge coming up starting on November 1st, that it's 22 days of yoga. So you can commit to doing 22 days of yoga in order to raise awareness. Post a picture every day of yourself doing yoga, or just post something on social media saying that I did yoga today, in order to raise this awareness for 22 a day. So
that's really good. And it's also, I don't know if you guys know this, you probably do, but it takes 21 days to create a habit. So by doing yoga 22 days in a row, you're gonna create that habit.
There you go. Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
All right, let's get into the final 3 questions.
Okay.
Question number 1. Who would you like to hear on a future episode of the Veteran Resource Podcast?
So Sam and I think maybe have different ones, but I would like to hear the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America be on the podcast. They do a lot of good work for our Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. That's IAVA.org.
Very nice. And Sam?
I would love to see Catch a Lift come on the podcast. They do a lot of great work here in Baltimore. They originated here in Baltimore, actually. And yeah, they're a national organization, and I would love to see them come on the podcast.
Yeah, this is actually the first time I'm hearing about them, and that's exactly why I started this podcast, was because there's organizations out there that veterans haven't heard of yet. So I would absolutely love to have them come on.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
All right, great. Question number 2. What project has you fired up right now? I wonder.
Well, obviously, you know the answer. We're excited about our upcoming Veterans Gratitude Week. Definitely have to have everybody come out. We've worked really hard for this. Sam and I are very, very busy people, but we made this happen. So you've got to come and make it special for us. If not just for the veterans, make it special for us too. Reward our hard labor.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. And the final question, this one is the brain stretcher. If you woke up tomorrow and you found out that somebody made an anonymous donation of $10 million to the organization, what would you like to do with it?
Well, I had to reach out to the director of Veterans Yoga Project, Dr. Daniel Libby, to answer this question, because if it were my $10 million, I don't know that the answer would be the same. However, this is Dr. Libby's response. We would continue to do what we are doing now, only we would be able to reach many more veterans. 1, we would continue to train caregivers and healthcare providers in the use of yoga and meditation for people recovering from trauma. 2, we would do more healing retreats for veterans and their families. And 3, we would continue to make yoga available to veterans by supporting more yoga classes and treatment programs and within community-based veteran organizations across the country. A $10 million donation would allow us to fund a scholarship program for veterans to complete 200-hour and 500-hour yoga teacher training programs and to deploy those veteran teachers and support them as they share their practices with other veterans across the country.
Wow, that's great. So for the person out there that has the extra $10 million and you're trying to figure out, what should I do with this? You just heard what the Veterans Yoga Project can do with it. So for that person with the $10 million, or for anybody else out there that wants to get in contact with you, what's the best method?
Well, you can go directly to www.veteransyogaproject.org. And that would probably be the best way to get in contact with them. And I'm not actually sure if Dan wants me to give his email out. So yeah, go to the website.
Yeah. We'll play it safe and leave it with the website.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you both so much for coming on to the show. And PTSD is something that is a real problem out there for a lot of the veterans. And so I love that you guys are helping to do something to help veterans with PTSD.
Great. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciated this opportunity to talk about it. It's a serious issue.
Excellent. Well, I think I'm going to see you at the event.
Yay!
Yes. And I don't know if we've mentioned yet, but it's on November 8th. I don't think I mentioned the date at all, but it's November 8th at 10 a.m.
Oh,
so,
wow.
yes.
Did we fail to mention that? That's great.
I think we did.
Yeah, we did. Good job, us.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Yes.
All right, so November 8th, I will see you out there. If any of the listeners want to come out and hang out, please do. And if you can't make it out, please pass this on so that other people can find out about it and they could show up.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste. All right, so if anybody out there wants to see me attempt to touch my toes, you'll have to come out to the event on November 8th at 10 a.m. And once again, that's at Stevenson University, and it's in Owings Mills. I will have the address, and I will have all of the links on the show notes page, which can be found at veteranpodcast.com/031. And make sure you go there so that you get the correct address. As they mentioned, there are a couple different locations and you don't want to end up going to the wrong one. You also are going to want to click the link for the Eventbrite page so that you can RSVP for the event and get all set up to go. Whether you're a veteran or a civilian or a child, you're going to get a lot out of this event, and you're going to be helping to raise awareness of PTSD and help veterans who have PTSD. So make sure that if you can come out, you do, and if you can't make it out, share this with your friends, tell everybody you know, and maybe some of them will be able to make it. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in episode 32.